Welcome to the 7th episode of Majtas podcast. Today, it is a great honor to host Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, the leader of the Belarusian opposition in exile and also the president-elect of the 2020 election. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
In Belarus, you have faced repression and a complete lack of political space. What are the first signs of a regime turning full-scale authoritarian, as in the case of the Belarus? And how are you challenging from the exile in Poland and also?
So as for authoritarianism, I think the first signs, first bells, for the society is when the president doesn't want to fulfill the will of people. This leader is still in elections and liquidating organizations, trade unions, or threatening free media. It means that something is wrong with this person or with this system. And I think that first bells for Belarusian people, it was when in 2 years after Lukashenko won his first elections, he dismantled parliament and put people very loyal to him. So just parliament in Belarus is not parliament as in your country. It's like fully pocket parliament whose main task is to raise hands when Lukashenko says them to do this. When you see that institutions are not working for people but for the dictator, these signs have to be visible, for people, and this is a sign that you have start protecting what you have. And of course, leading a democratic movement from exile is rather difficult, but in the context that you cannot be in the country because you will be jailed immediately. That I was sentenced to 15 years in jail in absentia. But we are trying to, first of all, to stay united as a movement. We have built democratic institutions of power, alternative institutions like Coordination Council and United Traditional Cabinet. So this institutionalization is extremely important for people to see your structure and know how it is working and know who is responsible for what. And also leading movement from exile means that you have to keep unity of people in exile and in the country, not to live with problems of exiled people in this exiled bubble, but to keep this connection and coordination with the people on the ground. Because, this is regime who are trying to persuade people, those who left, they are betrayers of our country. You left. You live in Belarus. Yes, you are suppressed. You're under repressions, but you're like here. Don't pay attention to them. And my task is to keep this constant communication and to keep this unity. So, and have possibility to work with different groups of people inside Belarus, like in young generation, with people from small cities, from villages, just to keep them updated, to explain what we are doing for the country and for people and why it's important not to lose energy.
I see. In some countries, and mainly also in our region, in the Balkans, the opposition is mainly focused on blocking government initiatives rather than having real political initiatives. And in your experience, actually, you have real political alternative. Also, the new constitution you have drafted. And I remember you saying the 2020 election that if I win, I'm going to implement the new constitution and then I will leave politics, let's say. But how is the opposition, let's say, effective? How can it be beneficial for its citizens? And do you think countries like Albania take democracy for granted?
Our people of Belarus, we are not just simply against Lukashenko. We are for democratic and free Belarus. It's very clear and understandable alternative to Lukashenko or to Ruski Mir that Lukashenko carries with him. So I try to explain people that it's not my duty to change the country. It's not only my responsibility. it depends on each of you. You have to be involved in this. But what we want to build, this is free Belarus, where people are respected, where institutions of power are working for people, not for like one person. We explain them how life of Belarusian people might change when we'll be reliable partner and neighbor for other countries, when the borders are opened, visa-free regime, when we'll come to this pro-European path of development, there will be new investments. We're already talking and communicating with big businesses that we will be open for you in the future when Lukashenko, leaves our country. That business opportunities will be so open for small entrepreneurs. That government will not interfere into civil society procedures or business or different business activities. Just you have to build your country yourself. Politicians are your servants. You are not slaves, to the politicians. And this is like practicality, that we are proposing to Belarusian people, and we show the paths how will be able to achieve, these aims, and people can compare where the life will be better with Lukashenko and his pro-Soviet Union approaches, or pro-European democratic free country where we can realize ourselves, our ambitions, our businesses, and of course people understand what to choose. And as for value of democracy, yes. I think that countries, I'm talking to so many people and leaders actually, and they say that the countries who recently went through dictatorship, and this historical memory is still alive, they understand the value of democracy much deeper than those who have never experienced or forgot already how it is. And
more than one generation.
Yeah. And that's why these countries who really feel, our pain, they are more eager to help and assist in our fight. And just my message, to all that you have to protect democracy now, not waiting until it's under danger already. And you have, again, to feel these signs when democracy turns into autocracy already.
And you also shared the first, let's say, pain points, how regime can turn from semi-authoritarian to full authoritarian, as in the case of Belarus.
And it's duty of people to stop this, at the initial points.
For democracy,
absolutely,
not just once in 4 years.
Because this transformation might be very fast, from democracy to dictatorship.
You became the leader of opposition without being a career politician, in your case, and also, what are your thoughts for women in politics? And do you think that going back 5 years later, that would have been a different approach from the West if there was a man, let's say, who was the leader of opposition, winning the elections?
Our uprising back in 2020 was unusual for our Western neighbors because it was really led by women. Because we had such obstacles. The first 3 days after our uprising, so many men have been kidnapped and detained and severely beaten in prisons. And it was like routine for regime, we beat men and, the uprising stops. But 2020, our courageous women, went to protect our men. And I remember how first days, regime didn't know how to react. What should we do with these peaceful women with balloons, with flowers, who showed that we don't have weapon. We just protect our children and our men. But a couple of days later, women started to be beaten the same as men and abused and raped. So it was also a turning point for a regime that they don't have like red lines in repressions. But it was, I think that it gave so much self-confidence to our Belarusian women that we are really strong, that we, despite all the attempts of the regime to humiliate us, to say that, our constitution is not for women, women's place in the kitchen, so on and so forth. We felt our power. And for 5 years, I see that women are more effective in long distance. Women are more have more empathy, to events, empathy to political prisoners, and more determined. And so many organizations and initiatives are led by women, much more than it was before 2020. And also among high-level politicians, I also see that women are sometimes even more determined or ready for non-conventional solutions, and understand the value of peace and democracy, all over the world. They are more not self-ambitious, but they have ambitions regarding like bigger issues, like global peace, like children protection of human rights, so on and so forth.
And empathy plays a big role in politics as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad that this gender balance we are talking so much about is more or less okay now, and so many parliaments and governments, want to reach this gender balance. And women might be much more effective in some cases than men. I don't want to offend anybody, but maybe because we have to be multitasked even at homes, bringing up children and doing so many other duties. So
now we're gonna go to a quick fire, let's say, questions. It's called rapid fire questions, and it's like short answers as well. And my first one is, what is the phrase that motivates you most in politics?
In politics, look, maybe you are much stronger than you think you are.
Just like that.
Yeah.
You have to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
It's a good component. If, let's say, Belarus, it's a big if, okay, confirms your election victory tomorrow, what would be the first country you would visit as president? It's a hypothetical question, this one.
No, it's a real question. But maybe in these circumstances it will be Kiev, just to support our neighboring nation who are fighting actually not only for themselves, but also for Belarus and the whole region.
And if there is one book or one movie or one, let's say, piece of documentary that you would suggest people to read to understand the importance of freedom and democracy, what would it be?
I will name the book that now is forbidden in Belarus. It is 1984 by George Orwell.
Oh, okay, interesting.
This is, it looks like fantasy in the book, how dictatorship is growing and ruining every human being. But this is what we are going through in Belarus in the moment.
When was it forbidden? Sorry? Like
it
years
was
ago
forbidden,
or just
yeah, after 2020, because it was like table book for many people. They always compared the dictatorship of Lukashenko and all the atrocities and brutality of the regime. It is described in this book. So, and just to understand what's happening in Belarus now, just read Orwell.
It's very fortunate. Sviatlana, thank you so much for your time. We are so appreciative of you being with us in the podcast. And thank you for visiting Tirana and Albania. And I hope for the best for your government, opposition government in exile. So,
thank you so much.
It's an honor. Thank you.